Greetings, YouTubers. In this video, I'm going to show you how to distinguish benefic and malefic planets. First of all, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are actually not usually used in systems approach. That's the method I use in astrology. But because I learnt all about them in Western astrology, I use them, and it kind of is convenient. So Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, you can consider malefic, and the aspects they'll make, which I'm going to talk about more next time, you can consider conjunction, that's 0 degrees, plus or minus 5 degree orb, and opposition, that's 180 degrees, and the same with a 5 degree orb. So they won't do squares and they won't do any trines or anything else. They'll do conjunctions and oppositions, and they are malefic. Uranus is violent, Neptune's addicted, Pluto is fatal, and I'll talk about that more at another time. So the north node of the moon and the south node of the moon are also malefic. And then what happens is the ruler of the 6th, 8th, and 10th houses are malefic. And so of the 7 remaining planets, the 7 traditional planets, if they rule houses 6, 8, or 12, did I say 10? 6, 8, or 12, then they will be malefic. Otherwise, of those 7, they will be benefic if they rule any of the other houses. After we do benefic and malefic, I'm going to talk about astrology in broad terms. And I'm actually going to distinguish 3 types of astrology, which actually work in different parts of the human being. And these parts are described in theosophy. And okay, so let's turn on this little fill light here. I'm blind for a moment. Now, I watched a lecture by an author actually, and she had done some study about Mars and Venus conjunctions. And her background was purely Western astrology, and she admitted that she didn't know how to judge if this conjunction between Mars and Venus was good or bad. She did the charts she looked for this chart in famous people, and might I say, if they're famous, probably Mars and Venus are both, and if they're conjunct, Mars and Venus are probably both benefic in those instances. But in some instances, Mars and Venus, for some ascendants, they will both be malefic. That happens with Taurus ascendant, and that happens with Scorpio ascendant, and I'll show you how. It could also happen that one planet is malefic, one of either Mars or Venus is malefic, and the other one is benefic. And in all the other, and those examples are Virgo ascendant and Pisces ascendant, in which, so in Pisces ascendant, Venus will be Malefic, and in Virgo ascendant, Mars will be Malefic, and the other one Benefic. And then in all the other ascendants, they are both Benefic. And let me show you how that works for... So, yes, so I've already said that rulers of houses 6, 8 and 12 are Malefic. So if we go over here, whoops. If we go over here and we look at Taurus ascendant, if this is the first house here, then the sixth house is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Libra. And since Venus rules the sixth house for Taurus ascendant, Venus is Malefic. And seventh house, eighth house, Jupiter will be Malefic as ruler of the eighth. 9, 10, 11, 12, Mars will be Malefic, ruler of the 12th. So always Mars, and I'm just taking Mars and Venus as an example because I saw this author talking about conjunction between these two planets and how she didn't know how to judge if that was good or bad. And I'm just explaining how that depends upon the ascendant. And Mars and Venus, Mars rules Aries, Venus rules Libra, they will always be ruling opposite houses. So for Taurus, they rule, Venus rules the 6th, Mars rules the 12th. For Scorpio ascendant, Mars rules the 6th, Scorpio ascendant, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Aries. 6th house is Aries, Mars rules the 6th, and Venus directly opposite here rules the 12th. So, in our table here, if we take Taurus and we look at the malefic planets, the most malefic planet is the ruler of the 8th. So that's actually Jupiter. And also malefic for Taurus ascendant is Mars, the ruler of the 12th, Venus, the ruler of the 6th, the North Node, and the South Node. And I just have to check in my book to make sure that I don't make any mistakes. And Scorpio here, Scorpio ascendant, the most malefic planet, actually for Scorpio, the 8th house is Gemini. Shall I show you here? Scorpio. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Eighth house for Scorpio is Gemini, and it doesn't have a ruler. So the most malefic planet is the ruler of the 12th, actually, because the ruler of the 8th is the most malefic. If it doesn't have a ruler, the most malefic planet is the ruler of the 12th. And if neither the 8th nor the 12th have a ruler, the most malefic planet is actually not the ruler of the 6th, it's actually the south node of the moon. That happens for Aries. Ascendant. I'm going to jump there right now. I'm going to say most malefic planet, ruler of the 8th. Scorpio doesn't have a ruler. Ruler of the 12th, Pisces doesn't have a ruler. And so the most malefic is the south node, even though the 6th house, Mercury, is also malefic, and the north node of the moon. Checking my book. So when we do Scorpio, the most malefic planet is the ruler of the 12th, Venus. I mentioned that in my previous video. The most malefic planet for Scorpio ascendant is Venus. The most, we won't go there yet. Also, the ruler of the 6th is malefic. Sixth house for Scorpio ascendant is Aries. So what is your ascendant and what planets are benefic and malefic? Actually, we've focused on malefic, haven't we, so far? And the rule is the planets which rule houses 6, 8, and 12. And in my mind, I'll slip up again. 6, 8, and 10 is somehow a trap. I forget. 6, 8, 12. And you know, there's a biblical background to that. That's the consequence of the fall. 6 means work, sweat of the brow. 8 is suffering. 12 is death or mortality. You know, it's not the fact that it necessarily, the rule of the 12th is deadly. It's simply actually loss, the fact that we live in a finite world and people will, as they come into our lives, also they'll go out of our lives, the people we love. Either they die or they might, you know, or separations and all, whatever the things are which result in the loss of loved ones. 6, 8, and 12. Work, suffer, die. And, you know, they're malefic, but they're very important for keeping the human condition healthy. The most benefic planet is the ruler of the 4th house. You can have a bit of a look at that zodiac I've got there. So if the 4th house has a ruler, that's the most benefic planet. If the 4th house doesn't have a ruler, the most benefic planet is the ruler of the 2nd house. If neither the 4th house or the 2nd house have a ruler, the most benefic planet is the ruler of the 9th house. And I know this because my ascendant is Aquarius. And that's where the house down there, that's Saturn in Aquarius there. So if we count Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, then the fourth house doesn't have a ruler. The second house is Pisces, doesn't have a ruler. The ninth house for Aquarius ascendant is Libra, ruler of Venus. So the most benefic planet for Aquarius ascendant is Venus. If, and this refers to Libra ascendant, if the fourth house doesn't have a ruler, or the second, or the ninth, and you can do your counting, Libra over there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Neither 2, 4, or 9 have a ruler. So the most benefic planet is the ruler of the third house, Jupiter, most benefic planet for Libra. So those houses again, 4, 2, 9, 3. Let's do that for all of them quickly. Fourth house from Aries is Cancer. Fourth house from Taurus is Leo. Fourth house from Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo. Fourth house from Cancer, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra. So this column is the most benefic, the ruler of the fourth house, if it has a ruler. For Leo, fourth house, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio. Fourth doesn't work, so we go to the second, and second house is Virgo. Most benefic planet is Mercury. Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sag. Most benefic planet for Virgo, the ruler of the fourth house, Jupiter. Libra, I went through this whole 4, 2, 9, do not have rulers. So the most benefic planet for Libra is the ruler of the third house, Libra, Scorpio, Sag. Most benefic planet for Scorpio is Saturn. This is what I mentioned in my previous video. Scorpio turns Western astrology upside down because the most benefic planet is Saturn and the most malefic planet is Venus. Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. Fourth house doesn't have a ruler. Second house, Capricorn does not have a ruler. Ninth house, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo. Ninth house, ruler, Leo. Ninth house, ruler, the Sun, ruler of Leo, is the most benefic planet. The most malefic planet, the ruler of the eighth house, Moon. And Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries. Most benefic planet is Mars. And below Capricorn is Aquarius. The most benefic planet is the ruler of the 9th house, which is Libra. The ruler is Venus. Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini. 4th house doesn't have a ruler. The 2nd house does. The ruler of Pisces' 2nd house is Mars. I'm making sure I haven't made any mistakes. Now, okay, what we'll do, I'm just figuring out the best use of time. I'm going to run through the most malefic planets, and I'm going to complete this column. And then I'll probably speed up. And while I take that in hand and I fill in all of the other planets, show you the result, and then you will know, you can look at your particular ascendant, you know how it's calculated, which means you don't need a book, you just go Malefic 6, 8, 12, Benefic 4, 2, 9, 3. And then you can know which planets are benefic and malefic for each ascendant. So let's calculate the malefics, and we'll do that. Then we'll give you the picture of all of this filled out. And then I'm going to go on, hang around, because I'm going to talk about astrology in very broad terms and describe 3 particular approaches, 3 different types of astrology, of which the one we're doing now is one, but there are 2 others which are interesting, to say the least. Okay, Gemini, most malefic planet, ruler of the 8th is well, the 8th sign, 8th house is Capricorn, does not have a ruler. 12th house is for Gemini ascendant. The 12th house is the sign just before Gemini's Taurus, does not have a ruler. So the most malefic planet will be the south node of the moon, just like Aries. And also, don't forget the ruler of the 6th house. For Gemini ascendant, the 6th house is Scorpio. If you wonder how I do that, you can look at this picture, of course. But otherwise, what I do in my head, I want to know the sign on the 6th. I go Gemini and I know what's opposite, Sag. And then I go back one, Scorpio. It doesn't have a ruler. So guess what? The only planets that are malefic, if you have Gemini ascendant, are the south node of the moon, the most malefic, and the north node of the moon. All the other planets, and you can see I've got a column wide enough, Mercury and all the other 6 planets are benefic. And if you say to yourself, well, that's not fair, how come they only get 2 malefic planets and everyone else gets more? And I would say, correct, it's not fair. It's simply not fair. Another, perhaps even more important part of this is anyone who has Saturn and Jupiter malefic, which I'm just judging who is that, it's Taurus. Taurus ascendant. No, it's not. It must be Cancer. It is. Cancer ascendant. Both Saturn and Jupiter are malefic. Now, what makes that difficult is that they're slow-moving planets. And so whenever they do transits, they're slow. So their affliction lasts longer. And that isn't fair. If the ascendant is Cancer, then the most malefic planet is Saturn. The ruler of the 8th. For Leo, the most malefic planet is, it's not the 8th because the 8th house is Pisces. If you look at the picture, you can see that. Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. 8th house for Leo is Pisces, does not have a ruler. What about the 12th? The sign before Leo is Cancer. And so the most malefic planet for Leo ascendant is the moon. So in contrast, Saturn will spend, for Cancer ascendant, the most malefic planet, Saturn actually can station too and spend 3 weeks very close to a sensitive point, causing trouble, whereas the moon will pass in a matter of hours and it's gone. Of course, in a natal chart, the moon might cause affliction natally. If it's close to, well, if it's a full moon, it's going to afflict the sun, for example. Most malefic planet for Virgo is Mars, the ruler of the 8th. Most malefic planet for Libra is the 8th house is Taurus, does not have a ruler. The 12th house is Virgo. The ruler of which is Mercury. We did Scorpio, we did Sagittarius, the Capricorn, the 8th house is Leo. Check on here. Capricorn, directly opposite is Cancer, the 7th. So Leo is the 8th house. The ruler is the sun. Aquarius, the most malefic planet, the ruler of the 8th house is Mercury. So I've got Aquarius ascendant, and Mercury is 5.5 approximately degrees from the sun. It's weak, but more importantly, it's malefic. It's the ruler of the 8th, and it will afflict the sun, especially, and this is coming up in my video, not the next one, the one after, when we do progressions and directions. This 5.5 degrees corresponds to mid-50s, when 1 degree is 10 years. So in my mid-50s, Mercury afflicts my sun, the ruler of my 7th house. And yes, so important. Most malefic planet for Pisces is Venus, the ruler of the 8th house. Okay, now I'm going to pick up this book, and you can watch this in fast motion.